Business Brain, episode 519 for Friday, Casual Friday, January 26th, 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Business Brain, the show where we take a few concepts, a few ideas, a few things we find, we analyze them, we dissect them, we dig into them so that every single one of us here are able to tune our business brains together each and every episode. Sponsors include GoSquaredAway.com, where you're going to go to find out about highly educated military spouses who can become your remote executive assistants, and Gusto.com/businessbrain, where you get 3 months of payroll, benefits, admin, and more totally free. More details on those in a bit. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Lafayette, California, I'm Shannon Jean. It's, January 26th. You know what that means, Dave?
I don't.
There's only a few more days left to hunt ducks and geese in California. And so, we're wrapping things up out here. Gonna have to tuck away the camouflage, even though I'm wearing it today.
Sure.
And get everything ready. But I just thought you'd like to be aware of that. It's very important. Important fact.
Well, you don't want to run afoul of the law. You don't want to be a criminal.
Smart.
And well, yes, but I meant that as a triple entendre because I am not a criminal, Shannon. It turns out I am not a criminal. Yeah. Well,
Did you file for that federal crime thing, whatever?
I did it this morning. So,
oh man, I gotta do it.
We talked about this on the first episode of the year, where the Financial Crimes Enforcement Center or whatever is requiring that every business that exists in the United States identifies its beneficial owners in a database. And the reason they're doing this is to be able to track the actual ownership of companies so that, basically for financial crimes like terrorism and money laundering and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, when you file a tax return, you put the beneficial owners in, like the partners of the business are in there. But you can put another business as one of the partners, and then that business can have several beneficial owners, which could be other businesses. And so it could be a very lengthy investigative process to figure out who the actual owner is. With this, everything gets tied together. So if you put a business in, that's fine. That business is also in the database, and its beneficial owners are there. And the same for those beneficial owners. If it's companies, if it's an individual, that's what they actually want to know, is who are the individuals behind this. So I don't have corporate structures that are overly complex. It took me all of about 8 minutes to do one of my companies. Now, it's a company where my wife is an owner of the company, just so we can file as a partnership. But I am 99% owner of this, and she does not qualify as a beneficial owner. Beneficial owners, by their definition, are people who have control over the entity.
All right.
And anyone with 25% or more ownership in the entity. So either of those things makes you a beneficial owner. Fine.
I saw the government propaganda. I mean, the news that a million or some odd businesses had already signed up for this last week and everything.
Yeah. And it was easy. I chose, because I have so many different I have like 4 or 5 different LLCs or whatever.
Yep.
I chose to create what's called a FinCEN ID.
Oh.
And really, and I would request that you do the same thing. And the reason is, if you do that, what I did was I went in and essentially created an account for myself, and I'll put a link in the show notes for everybody to do it. And you just log in and give them your name, and I used my driver's license to sort of authenticate myself, and that was it. Like that's the end of that process. But where it gets really easy is when I went then to do the first company that I was going to do with this. I went in and it said, list all the details about this beneficial owner, or
Your
give
number.
me their FinCEN ID.
It's like a single sign-on ID type thing.
And it's just an ID number. It's not
That's
your social
cool.
security number. It's not a tax ID number. It means nothing other than identifying you for this.
It's one more number I have to remember.
It is, well, or you put it in a database somewhere, but like I did. But I just put in the number and then all the fields went away. It was like, great. And they were like, are there any others? And I'm like, not for this business. And it was like, click. Okay, you're done. That's it. So that's
cool.
why I asked that you do it, because you're going to need to do it for, your own stuff. And then I'm going to be on the hook for doing it for our entity. So
yeah, you're the guy that does that stuff for us.
and you don't want to have to send me a copy of your driver's license or your
No.
passport, which you would
Yes.
if I were
didn't
doing
have
this
that.
on your behalf. Right.
But knowing me, I will probably wait to the last possible day because I'm not a huge fan of getting this government stuff done, but I will do it. I'm going to put a note on my
it's right
board
there in the
now.
show notes. So you could
that's
just do that
perfect.
and then just give that to me and then I'll get it done and then we don't have to think about it anymore.
Okay.
So, I'll be the proactive one. I'll be the responsible one, Shannon.
Yeah, I always need responsible people around me because
in fact, I would argue that in the time it takes me to tell everyone about our sponsors for today, you could do it. I would think you could even do it right now. All right, folks. You know what's less fun than a surprise tax audit? Well, probably nothing. But close second, managing payroll and HR. Cue the groans, right? But wait, what if I told you that there's a superhero in the world of payroll and HR? Enter our sponsor, Gusto. Picture this, payroll that's actually painless, benefits that don't break the bank, and HR that doesn't make you hit the snooze button. Imagine, my fellow business brains, a world where payroll runs smoother than your morning coffee, where W-2s and 1099s are less intimidating than your morning crossword, and health benefits don't sound like rocket science. That's right, Gusto is like that friend who knows all about taxes and doesn't make you feel bad about not knowing what a W-4 form is. It's an all-in-one, remote-friendly platform where you can hire, onboard, pay, and support your team across the globe. And guess what? It's easy peasy to use, even from your beach hammock or your mountain cabin. 3 out of 4 customers say they run payroll in 10 minutes or less with Gusto. The 4th customer, well, they were probably just too busy enjoying how much time they saved to respond. And here's the kicker. For listeners of Business Brain, Gusto is offering 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's more savings than finding a forgotten 20 in your winter coat. And I'm wearing my winter coat a lot, so I think there's going to be a lot of 20s in there. So wave goodbye to payroll and HR headaches and say hello to Gusto. Visit gusto.com/businessbrain and give your business the gift of time, savings, and peace of mind. That's gusto.com/businessbrain. Now, let's get back to tuning those business brains of ours, and our thanks to Gusto for sponsoring this episode. All right, now, though, let's talk about the entrepreneur's universal challenge, time management. You know, like when managing your inbox feels like playing whack-a-mole with a rubber hammer, or when balancing your professional and personal life feels like juggling flaming torches underwater. Anyway, here's the good news. I've found our time-traveling superhero, minus the cape, squared away. Picture this, highly educated, driven, and dedicated military spouses turning into your remote executive assistants. It's like finding a unicorn that can do your taxes. I absolutely adore this concept, folks. Military spouses are like Swiss Army knives, versatile, resilient, and always handy in a pinch. Squared away assistants are the ninjas you need. They sneak in, tackle your admin work, manage projects, and handle those pesky little tasks that nibble away at your time. They're like professional plate spinners, keeping everything aloft while you focus on, well, being the business wizard that you need to be. And the best part, they're in every U.S. time zone and work as W-2 employees, not contractors. It's like having a personal productivity army, but without the need to feed and house them. So if you're ready to stop feeling like a circus ringmaster and more like a CEO, you've got to check out Squared Away. See how they can help you. Just go to GoSquaredAway.com. Again, that's GoSquaredAway.com. Say goodbye to task terrors and hello to your new secret weapon, and our thanks to Squared Away for sponsoring this episode. All right. Time's up, Shannon. You got to.
I didn't get it done, Dave. In time.
Okay.
I have. Oh wait, I'm right here. Your FinCEN identifier. Okay, well
there it is.
I'll do it when we're done.
Great, perfect, yeah. Amazing. That's great.
I do have a problem trying to do two things at once, even while I'm doing this show. It's not.
We're terrible at.
Awful.
We are not multitaskers.
No,
it's
a myth. It's a myth.
It is a myth. Absolutely, absolutely.
But what's not a myth is email. Email still rules the business world. Newsletters, email communication with your customers, with your employees, and so.
Well, hopefully you're not doing too much email with your employees. Like, hopefully you're using Slack or something.
I hope so.
Managing teams these days.
Yeah.
And I say these days, we did away with email for our teams probably 10, 15 years ago.
But I would say
but for external stuff.
But we're going to talk about here now about impactful email, or maybe I should change this to impactful messaging, is applicable to
all of it.
Slack, whether you're using Teams, whatever you're using, email. And I'm going to mention the X platform again, and I probably apologize, but I do spend a lot of time up there because I think it's a wealth of information and a masterclass at just about any topic you want. I learned from you, Dave, how to curate my stream of data to be super useful, and there's no garbage in there, which I love it. And I stayed away from Twitter, X for years because of that, and now it's like perfect. It's like a perfect fire hose of information for me.
That's great.
This guy up there, Moses Kagan, who's got a gazillion followers, he posted something that got me thinking about messaging and email. And what he said was, business emails should contain no more than 2 sentences per paragraph.
Yeah.
Let's start with that, because people don't read. If you're digging down and you've got one thing after another, people are like, what are we getting here? And you won't get the response you're going to get.
Unless you know that your recipient is a prolific communicator, right?
Yes.
Like if they're going to read every word you write them, even if it's a 5-page opus, great. But unless you know that and you are certain that you're willing to go on that, then you got to follow this rule. For sure.
And the second part, which I think is really great, which I don't do. I do the first part because I've learned I actually try to keep it to one topic per message.
Oh, for sure.
It's tough. You can't, if you start to go down, it just falls apart. But the second recommendation, if the sender, you, expects an action from the recipient, the ask should be bold and underlined. I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, I guess, again, it's reading the room, figuring out who it's going to, right?
He makes a good point. I have a problem, and I've softened on this in recent years because I understand where the world is and I'm a realist. But I have a fundamental issue with emails not being sent as plain text. And the reason is,
I see.
If you, unless you're really good at, and you know what your formatting is going to look like on the recipient's end, I prefer to send email that is going to look like my recipient intends for it to look, right?
But aren't most people using modern email clients that formatting is standardized or not?
No, that's the
question.
thing. If I choose a different font for my email and different sizing, which as soon as you start adding formatting, all of your stuff goes along with it. It's not like, here, send this to Shannon and underline this, but keep the rest of it looking like he wants email to look, at the right size and all this. As soon as you start formatting it, you sort of take over.
Maybe it's asterisk at the beginning, asterisk at the end.
I'll do
like
asterisk. I will. Yeah, I'll do things like that. And again, you can use a lot of people use underline and bold communicating with me, and it is effective. So you just need. But I guess my advice here is test. Send this email to some trusted friends. Send it to yourself so you can read it on your phone. Like, you don't know where someone's going to be when they're reading a message.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You've got to make sure you're communicating effectively, because we've all gotten those emails where the font size is either 10 sizes too big or 10 sizes too small. and you're like, this looks like a cartoon. This is stupid.
Comic Sans.
And it converts, it communicates, perhaps unintentionally, a lack of attention to the recipient, right? And that, I don't know. If I get an email where the font and the formatting is all screwed up, it's like, oh, I don't have time for this right now. And then I'm frustrated about it, even if it's something I know I need or want to pay attention to. So
yeah, no, that's good.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep.
His last tip is if the email must contain more than 4 paragraphs, it should begin with a summary and the ask. So what's the action I'm requesting? With the additional info posted below that.
I'm into
so
that.
kind of a too long didn't read, right? So, okay, here's a quick summary. Here's the ask, and then this. And I think that's a great idea if you're doing newsletters as well, is to have kind of, I used to call it the monologue. You had a brief monologue of, okay, we're going to talk about this stuff today. Here's the key points. That way, if somebody wants to, because you're trying to respect time, right? It's the most important commodity we have. So if somebody looks through there and says, this week I'm not really interested, I'm going to be gone. But I love that TLDR. Yeah.
Well, here's
the gist of it.
There's a thing that existed, it has existed for years, called 5 sentences. And it is, essentially this same thing. The policy that all email responses, regardless of recipient or subject, will be 5 sentences or less. And then there's also the 2 sentences, 3 sentences, and 4 sentences rules too. But the idea is exactly this, and the gist is treat all email responses like text messages, right?
I love it.
Which, of course, back in the SMS days, actually had a limited number of, that's where Twitter's initial 120 characters came from. Was that? Then they doubled it, but it was cool because it was built to be texted around, and so it had to fit in that. But that there is efficiency in limitations like that. So
and all good writing is, strip it down, strip it down, and
you got to strip it down.
Yeah, it's hard to do, but less is more. And I have found, I'm working on this new book, Escaping Employment, and I found that writing on Twitter has actually helped me in that regard.
Sure.
Because it's just, you can't have that superfluous stuff in there. Nope. And even if it goes against a grammar rule, sometimes it's very effective just to be like, boom, here it is.
Yeah, here's the thought. And
this is it.
People, you get away with it on Twitter because people understand that you need to be efficient on that platform.
So, but it's definitely helped my writing. I think the biggest thing is just to do it often, and especially with like emails or messaging. If you're not doing it often, these are great rules to follow. I love this 5.Sentenc.es. I think that's fantastic.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna share that. With my people. But anyway, we'd love to hear your tips. It's Casual Friday. We wanted to talk about email messaging. Share your thoughts with us so we can share them with everybody else. Come find us everywhere. Go to the show notes at businessbrain.show. You'll see all our links and all that good stuff. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Check out our sponsors, gusto.com/businessbrain and Go Squared Away. Of course, go sign up for our mailing list so you get all the show notes and everything in your inbox at businessbrain.show. Keep living that charmed life, and we'll see you next week.